Raging Review.
The Raging Cajuns will be a source of pride for this university, for the alumni, fans, and donors as we achieve success in the classroom, in the competitive arena, and in the community.
It's about to get really fun.
We're looking for dudes that will stand up. Well, Coach, let me tell you today, I'm here and I'm ready to stand up. And I challenge you, Raging Cajun Nation, to stand up with us. Stand up with us. Let's lock hand in hand and let's walk through the gates of Omaha.
Hey, I love y'all boys. Let's grind every day starting today. Let's do it. Y'all ready? Alert! Ready? Who's that team ready? Who's that team ready? Yes, sir.
I got one thing to say right here. Cajuns win!
Ladies, gentlemen, children, babies, Cajun Nation, another year, season 6 of Raging Review. I'm Jerry, that's Nick, and that's Josh. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
Seems that Nick has lost all audio. Outside of that, doing just fine there, Jerry.
Nice.
Season 6, baby.
Season 6. It seemed like just yesterday we got this thing started before COVID. And time has flown since. We've covered a lot. And so we decided just to come another year and bring you more fun action of Raging Cajun athletics from a fan's point of view, right? For the fans.
Oh, no, you haven't heard? We're the official voice. I mean, have you not?
Of course. I mean, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt about that. We've received a lot of love from the Cajun Nation. I just want to thank all our fans and all of the Cajun Nation for your support through the years. And we just had to keep the momentum going, keep the show on the road. The show must go on. So,
hey, before you get going, I just want to say it's good to see you, boys.
Oh, hey, Nick.
Sorry.
Oh, look who decided to show up. What's up, Nick? Good to see you, buddy.
Love it,
How
man.
we feeling?
Love you guys. Feeling good, bro.
Good. And, just for starters, I wanted to say that, we apologize for the delay. There were some things we went through, some things we're kind of maneuvering in the background. So we're here. We're here now, and we're going to make up for lost time. It's kind of like a delayed flight, right? When the pilot pushes full throttle on the plane to get you where you need to go to make up for lost time. That's where we are. But we're going to bring you all the necessary content. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes. There's a little bit of maneuvering with Raging Review. Want to give you the best product we can, best content we can. We're going to talk about the start of season 6. If we want to review a little bit of last year where we left off, we can. Cajuns football 1-0. Big win over Northwestern State the other night at Cajun Field. Final score 38-13. And as we know, they open up the season this week. Conference opener already. Second game of the season. First meeting against the ODU Monarchs. Cajuns travel to Norfolk, Virginia to play the Monarchs. Should be a lot of fun.
Hey, Jerry, have we played them in? I'm sorry to interrupt. Have we played them in football yet? Before?
We have not. No, this is the first meeting between the two schools, so it's going to be a challenge, but it should be a lot of fun. And we'll talk a little bit about what's going on around the Sun Belt, as well as Cajuns women's soccer and a little bit of volleyball, as those two seasons have really gone underway as well. So let's just talk a little bit about coming back here for season 6. We've had a long summer. The last time we saw you guys was going into the Coral Gables regional. Raging Cajun baseball went 2-1 or 1-2 in that regional. They showed up and played. They played hard, couldn't get it done. But I know Coach Daggs and his staff and this team going into fall ball feel that they have more to prove. So looking forward to that. We'll talk a little fall ball going into the next few months once that's all set and ready to go. So now that we're back, it's kind of like we're back in school. Josh, what did you do for the summer, man? Did you have a good summer? Were you able to kind of decompress a little bit from Raging Cajun athletics? How was it for you, man?
You know how dad life is now. So there is no decompression. The summer is more work than everything else. You got to do summer vacation. You got to do multiple vacations because they're not happy with one. And then when you go on 1, you got to work harder on number 2 because you got to make it better than number 1. So no, hell no, I didn't decompress. I'm more tired now than I've ever been. But no, we had a great summer. And you referenced Coral Gables, and first of all, it was a thrill to get into that regional. And as soon as we got into it, we all knew it was a tall task. But I got to say, the baseball guys, they surprised me a little bit. I think that we knew what they were capable of. I didn't know that we were capable of them competing at that level. That was something to see. Pitching staff really stepped up. Big clutch hits and big, huge moments. You go back to the Texas game, 2 catches changed that game. You had a 3-run job robbed by the center fielder. JT hits that 3-run home run and changes the game completely. And then you had the guy in right field who made probably the best catch I've ever seen live that robbed us of another couple runs. What a regional it was. You got blue bloods like Texas and Miami. Just to be able to participate in something like that says a lot about Deggs and his club and the direction of that team. But to go up there and compete at a high level was something, it was good to see. And look, it was good to go to A&M 2 years ago and compete, and that was a lot of fun. I felt like there was an extra edge with this bunch. And I know we lost some of those guys to the majors and graduations and things like that. But you got to feel good about where baseball's at. You really do. And then also there's another team on the diamond across the street there at Lamson Park that did something super special by going into Baton Rouge and taking a regional from that school across the basin, and I'm super proud of that because there was a lot of odds stacked against them, and they come out and they battle. They score big time late in the game to take the lead, and then they hold on to it. Big time defense, big time pitching. It was fun to watch. It was a lot of fun. This spring was a whole lot. It gives you a whole lot of hope going forward with those 2 teams in particular. But the summer is what it is. It's over. It's fall time now. It's football time. I'm just happy to be talking about the pigskin again.
There you go, man. I'm like you. Now that I have the little one, we took her to the beach a few times over the summer and got to enjoy the crystal clear water of the Florida Panhandle. And it was beautiful. We had a great time. Of course, I'm like a little kid when I go into the water. I like to enjoy that crystal clear water and just enjoy the scenery. But every time we get back, we usually take a July trip to Destin, and when we get back home, that's when football sort of kicks in because you've got the media days, right? The Sun Belt media days, and then you've got all these different conferences, and with conference realignment, I mean, we could talk about that. I mean, crazy moving of teams between conferences. I mean, now you've got teams from the West Coast playing in the Big Ten. You've got this team going here and this team going there. And, we haven't really gotten to the domino effect to where it affects the Sun Belt, but it's crazy how much movement there was this offseason with conference realignment. I've never seen anything like it. And, it's what's interesting about it is that, 20 years ago, a lot of schools would move based on geography. And now geography is thrown out the window when you have Oregon and Washington going to the Big Ten, and you've got USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten, and you've got all these different teams going to the Big 12, and it's SMU going to the ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference, and you've got Stanford and Cal, who are like furthest to the West Coast as you can be, going to the Atlantic Coast Conference. It's crazy. It's just crazy how this has all happened. And, indirectly, I'm interested to see how it will affect Louisiana. I don't like the direction it's going, but as they say, money talks. And I think that's what they're doing as Coach Prime would say, they're chasing the bag.
First of all, I'm happy to talk about some national headlines, and Coach Prime was at the top of that list. How fun was that? Everybody,
unbelievable.
I don't know how it seems like, and Twitter is no real barometer of how the nation feels one way or the other, but how entertaining was it? Doesn't matter whether you agree with his style or the way that he does things. It was so entertaining. And I will tell you this, the post-game and the pre-game entertainment was as good as the games themselves. You go back to like Buster Douglas and Tyson and all the big heavyweight bouts, and the promotion was, half the game. And Prime does such a great job of promoting the game, promoting his team, and the way that he just went after people. And he did it in a tactful way. He said, "Do you believe? Do you believe? Oh, you're still not a believer." All this stuff,
he don't believe.
The way that he handled it, we had a whole segment on one of our last episodes of last year where, we were talking about Coach Prime and the direction of Colorado and all the stuff. man, you can't watch that game and not be a believer, not think that they can win, and not think that they can have, Travis Hunter, who is a two-way player. Who's the last two-way player you saw at that level since Dion or Woodson? I think Woodson played some offense in Michigan. But things like that, like, it makes you want to watch. It gives you a reason to turn on College Game Day or the Big Noon Show or whatever that it's called now. You want to watch the game. It infuses some excitement into the college game at a time when you got so much uncertainty. You got NIL, you got conference realignment, you got collectives, you have all these things changing the landscape of collegiate athletics, football in particular. Coach Prime kind of puts a blanket over all that, and he says, hey, look, we can still be entertaining. It's still fun to follow college football in Colorado and a coach like him. It just infuses a whole lot of fun into the game, which is what it's supposed to be that.
Well, I think what's interesting is that we all know Deion Sanders is a brand himself. I mean, he does a great job behind the scenes, being able to be a trailblazer at everything he does. And being a former player, being a successful former player, being a coach that now has a resume, and being able to surround himself with successful people. That's the thing about Coach Prime. He surrounds himself with successful people. And the coaching staff that he's built at Colorado, for this coaching staff to go in and in 8 months take a team that went 1-11 and then go to the national runner-up at their house, by the way, and beat them in one game, I think where it relates to UL is it's a mindset. It's all about a mindset, and don't get me wrong, they have talent. And he basically he definitely flipped the roster. But at the end of the day, in spite of the talent, there's also a mindset that goes into it. And he talks about, do you believe? And believing that you can win, believing that your team can have chemistry. And so I think that mindset, that championship caliber attitude, is the attitude I've been talking about here for a long time when I say culture of can't. Don't get me wrong, they have resources, but a lot of it is the mental side of it, believing you can go do what you can do. So where I can relate that is whoever we play, we need to go in with that mindset as well in every sport, in everything that we do, every sport that we play, any team that we play. We have to go in with the mindset that he goes in with, is in that we're going to dominate. And I think that really relates here because, we have teams that are good enough to compete with anybody. And I think, seeing what we did in the diamond sports, seeing what we've done in football the last few years, if we can follow that mindset, we can make our fans proud and do some great things, competitively. But anyways, we could go on a tangent about this all day. Let's talk.
Well, it dovetails into Napier. It dovetails into Napier. Nick, you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't know what's going on, man. I swear, I'm really moving right now. Not a ventriloquist, Shaws. So while I still have audio, I want to say, if we talked about the summer, I have triggered more TSAB fans than I think anybody in the history of the state of Louisiana, probably on the planet of Earth. The planet of Earth, probably. I have triggered more TSAB fans than anybody on planet Earth. So I want to commend myself for that. Secondly, look, y'all, I like Coach Prime. He's a bit much for me. I like him as a coach, but I think he overdoes a little bit. But it's one game. Let's see how it does, right? He's got a great body of work at Jackson State, but he brought in the winning attitude, like you were saying, Jerry. No more culture of can't. We can't do this at Colorado. Yes, we can, and here we are. Very interesting. The transfer portal working, not how I guess we expected it to for a program like Colorado. We probably expected it to work like that, like we saw at TSAB baseball last year. But a program like Colorado, it's working. Maybe not as some of the quote Power 4, Power 5 anticipate.
Oh no. We lost Nick, but his point is well taken. And as far as Colorado goes, I don't care about. I have friends in Boulder, but I don't care about Colorado football. I just want to be entertained when I watch a team that I don't root for. And Coach Prime is the ultimate entertainer. He's a showman. I mean, it's fun. And
I
also
follow Colorado before he showed up.
Nobody
did.
Look,
No,
nobody cares. People want to
No.
be entertained. You know what I mean?
No.
And he does a great job doing that. So, as far as like entertainment value, I'm all in. As far, I don't know how many games he's going to win. He might lose all the rest of his games, but it was fun on Saturday.
I just hate how he makes it about himself. That's the only thing that I can't stand. But he He's doing that for a reason. He's a smart man. He's not here because he's a dumb man. So he knows exactly what he's doing.
Sure, and I have some takes on that, and Jerry, I'll let you go, but I would say that it dovetails into what happened to Napier a couple of nights ago, and the internet absolutely roasted Napier, and he's talking about a slow build and doing it the right way, and I feel all that. I understand he did it here, he's going to do it there. Hard to have that argument when Napier, when Coach Prime walks into Boulder, a perennial loser in the Pac-12. Well, it's not Pac-12; it was Big Ten before. Perennial loser. And he walks in and in literally 4 months turns him into a winner. You just beat TCU. They just played for a national championship.
Crazy.
57 new players in 4 months. You know what I mean? So the whole slow build thing is not going to look – I feel bad for coaches that do it the right way because now that Deion's winning, their timeline has gotten a lot shorter. And you saw the internet react to Billy. You saw the internet react to BK last night after his embarrassing performance against Florida State. And we can get into that for a second, too, if you want. But I just wanted to say that when you juxtapose Coach Prime's immediate results based on what Napier's going through, whew, it's tough, man. It's tough.
Yeah, and it goes to show you, I mean, look, Billy's getting, what, $7 million a year at Florida. Florida is a perennial powerhouse. They've won 3 national titles in the last 25, 26 years, I think. No, since 96, so that's 27 years. So there's a lot of expectations, and especially in the SEC, like you said, across down the basin right now. As of noon yesterday, they were a college football playoff, team, and they were a championship caliber team. And then as of right now, oh my gosh, is Brian Kelly the right man for the job? Right? It's amazing how, in a flip of a switch in 24 hours, when your team doesn't perform with that high expectation, how people could flip on you. And but for a justified reason. When you're getting paid that kind of money and you go into that spotlight, you're expected to perform. And when you don't, you're going to get a lot of critics. So I think with that being said, to your point about Coach Prime, I mean, look, to do that in one game, I mean, he's got everybody watching him now. So now,
and I got to tell you, Jerry, he saved college football for me for a certain aspect, because I'm getting jaded. And I know, Josh, you and I talked about this, and Jerry, I said, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, because college football is turning into something that I don't necessarily want to support. But this weekend, watching him and those kids who were told they couldn't do something and they did it, that to me is what college football is all about. So that gave me a little bit of hope that I'm going to kind of start getting back into it.
It's fun. It's fun, and that game was probably one of the most fun games I've watched, in a very, very long time.
Well, Jerry, can I say this one thing real quick?
Yeah,
you can't argue with the execution of his players. And I loved what his quarterback son said, not Shiloh, Shador said. He said, I just threw for more yards than I've ever thrown in my entire life, and I just came from an HBCU. It was almost like a deadpan moment where you had to stop and think about what he was saying. This man was playing against HBCUs out at Jackson State and never threw for 500 yards. He broke a Colorado record in game 1 against TCU. These guys have 5-star blue chip prospects up and down the roster. And he had a freshman, Edwards, number 3, a little small guy. He's like 5'8". He went absolutely nuts. You had, again, I brought up Travis Hunter, but he went both ways. And I think he had, 11 catches for 189 yards or something crazy like that.
And an interception.
Game breaking, and that incredible
interception in the red zone. Yeah.
So the thing about Coach Prime is that he makes you believe. I mean, you could tell that they really believed if y'all saw that pregame speech. Unfreaking believable.
And sometimes that's all it takes, man, is just getting guys to believe that they can do it.
HUD did it.
He made us all certainly did it.
That's right.
And again, the connection to Louisiana here is the mindset. It's an attitude. And, and I say this because it is our first episode of the season, and we have a lot of Cajun sports to talk about in the next 10 months. But in any sport we play and anything we do, it's like Coach Prime says, you got to believe. And all of this, well, we can't do this, we can't do that. I've preached on that so many times. We can't continue to reach success with this naysayer negative attitude. And, and we'll talk about that as time goes on throughout the year. But I think I'll tell you, we're all 3 sports right now are off to a great start, and we'll talk about that more or less as time goes on. But it's good to see, again, the Rage Occasion Sports is back. We've been pretty competitive in all three sports. But before we talk about that, I do want to, as Josh would say, pay the bills, right, Josh? So I'm going to get it started here. We're going to go. First of all, we want to thank our official sponsors for Rage Review. These are the guys that allow us to keep us going and do what we do. Start off with Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys, office locations in Lafayette, Alexandria, Lake Charles, Monroe, Shreveport, and Zachary, Denham Springs, Gonzales, Hammond, with the home office in Baton Rouge. Go by and see the Chief Happiness Officer, Penny. You'll be glad you did. Get the G guarantee. Gordon will win your case, or you don't owe a dime. No cost, no expenses, no fees, nothing. Thousands in NIL deals, assist athletes with everything from promoting their personal brands to networking within the business world. Call toll-free 888-532-1573. GetGordon.com. Get Gordon and get it done. Lafayette Roofing and General Contractors, licensed and insured, locally owned and family operated. Our friend Darren Domingue, proud UL alum and RCAF supporter, also a huge fan of the pod. Lafayette Roofing is certified with the Better Business Bureau, where Mr. Domingue serves as a board director. Reminder, if you haven't inspected your roof for damage with the wild weather we've had the last couple of years, make sure to check for sagging, signs of water damage, dark spots, holes, cracked or torn shingles, large amounts of shingle granules in gutters, presence of rot, mold, or moisture. 3 different options for financing available. They also offer exceptional interior, exterior painting and sheetrock services, and they have over 10,000 satisfied customers. I mean, for that reason, they can't be wrong. So give Darren and the crew a call today, 337-237-ROOF. That's 337-237-7663, 337-237-7663, or visit Lafayette-roofing.com. Patriot Steel Group. The guys over at Patriot Steel Group would like to thank all RCAF donors and encourage everyone to consider giving any amount they can to support our student athletes and their mission to promote our great university. Of course, owned by our good friend of the pod, Mr. Chris Russo. This is his new venture. Founded in 2021, the founders of Patriot have over 100 years of experience collectively in the oil and gas industry, and they offer domestic ERW or electric resistance welded and seamless tubulars. We can provide you with the quality steel anywhere in the U.S., from premium alloys to carbon grade. Contact Brandon Gallette or Reed Barbier at 337-443-9296 or visit the Patriot Steel Group LinkedIn page. So once again, to all our sponsors, thank you so much for sponsoring Rage Review. Give these guys a call. They'll give you 100 plus or 100% grade A service. And once again, thank you guys. So
nice job, Jerry. I know that was the first time you doing the read. It's funny though, Josh, you stepped away. He tripped up at the same exact spot that you did every time. So
It's hard to read.
I know. So I'm gonna go ahead and record it like a radio spot to play. That way we don't have to trip over it every time. How's that sound?
Hey, I'm all about it. You know, it's funny because when I used to do the high school football games, our good friend Big Dave, the late Big Dave Thibodeau, would do the sponsors. And what's funny is he never had something to read off of. He would just have the name of the company and the business or whoever owned it and just make everything up and just impose the whole entire time.
Oh,
and
yeah,
Poche's great.
Especially you go to Poche's, you get you some good meat over there.
Oh, yeah.
Poche's in Bull Bridge.
He knew the plate lunch for every
he
day
knew
of the
everything. Week. And it was to the point where Mike literally, I think, had to either had recordings of him to where when it was Mike's turn to do it, he literally typed out everything Dave would say. And now he reads off of all of it because he couldn't remember it. I mean, Dave knew everything by heart. Yeah, Big Dave, man. It's been over 9 years since he passed. We missed that man tremendously.
On that, I used to do the same thing. I just had him, got to remember to say the sponsors. This is going back a couple years. Well, I drink during the show and I would screw up the reads because I would forget. Or it's a little different when you
don't drink during the show.
Yeah. So no, I said, you know what? I'm going to start writing this stuff down so I don't mess it up.
Exactly. So anyway, guys, so now that we got the sponsors done, let's talk a little UL sports. But before we do, Josh, you've been with the pod since 2019. Let's talk a little bit about your future, what you plan to do. I know it's the elephant in the room. I know people have been kind of asking about it. So let's talk a little bit about that real quick. We'll get it out the way. We'll go from there.
Are they asking? I mean, what are we?
Yeah,
What are we
man.
asking here? Well,
You're
We're
famous.
kind of a big deal, Josh. I don't
Yeah,
know,
dude.
but there are rumors
Hello.
going around everywhere.
look, here's the thing. Yeah, your life changes. Your priorities change. Schedules change. So that on top of a few other things, and I thought about what I may say, but I think I've changed my opinion on a few of those. Basically, the what people really want to know is that am I going to be around? Yes, I will be around in a very limited capacity. Going to help the pod behind the scenes, do some business stuff, but when they need a pinch hitter, if somebody's sick or somebody can't make the show, I'll come in and help out, and I'll call into the post games when I get an opportunity to do so. But there's just a whole lot that goes with it, and family comes first, and I never want to put anybody in a bad spot. So I thought it was a good time to bow out. But I think we've come to an agreement where the guys understand that they're going to do the heavy lifting, and I'll help when I can. Also, on the side of changing collegiate athletic landscapes and how much confidence you have in the leadership of the people that you're fighting for, I got to tell you, there's a whole lot of evidence that say that things have changed at Reinhardt Drive over the last 2 years. So all of those things combined, I thought it was a good time to step away, and I got reeled back in to help, and that's fine. I don't mind helping, but I will be in a limited capacity. Nick and Jerry are going to do a fine job. They know way more about UL athletics than I do, especially Jerry with his history, Nick with his connections. I'm just, and even if you really want to stop and think about it, you might even go a little bit further than Rage and Review could have gone with me as a regular contributor, because let's be honest, they hate me. The administrators hate my guts. So you might even get, you might get your foot in the door a little bit more with me in a limited capacity. So there's so many different reasons why, but it was just a good time for me to step back. And, here we are. So tonight is going to be fun. We're going to talk about the football game, and we can talk about whatever, I know we're live, so whatever everybody wants to talk about. But as far as what's been going on during the summer and behind the scenes, that's a little glimpse into it.
And Josh, I just want to say, man, there's so much work that goes into this pod, and none of us get paid for it. I mean, I know we get sponsors. That money goes back to the university. So,
Say that again, Nick.
Yeah,
all the money that we don't get from the sponsors, we take it and we support other initiatives, like sending the basketball managers to the Final Four, like sending money to a journalist to try to make the away games because nobody's going to pay for them to do so, to cover the Cajuns, like the general fund, like the basketball fund, like paying for TrackMan for the baseball team. We take all those sponsorship dollars and we put them back into initiatives for the Raging Cajun athletic program. Just for all the people out there that have something bad to say about what we do here and what we say here, I just want to, say that we put our money where our mouth is and then some.
So, long story short, thank you. You've been a rock star, man. People don't know half of what you do, and you might not be everybody's cup of tea with your opinions, but to me, challenging is what we're here for. We're here to challenge the norms and ask the questions that other outlets in the media won't and cannot ask. And does that make us bad guys, or does that make us on the side of the fans? I'd like to say that we're on the side of the fans. So again, man, I've known Jerry for a long, long time. You and I have really gotten to know each other over the past couple of years, and you've become one of my best friends. So thank you for everything that you've done. And I'm glad that you're gonna come in and help us out a little bit.
I appreciate you saying that, Nick. Feelings mutual, buddy.
Yeah, Josh, I'm the one that dragged you into all of this. I pulled you in years ago because I knew you had a passion. I know. I'm sorry. Look what I did. But, one thing that I've always admired about you, whether it's on the Raging Cajun or you and I having hours of long conversations about UL, is if there's anything people can't deny about you, whether or not they have a different opinion or whether or not they disagree with the things you say or agree with the things you say, there's one thing nobody can deny about you, is that you are passionate and you do care. You've put in tons of work behind the scenes. I don't think people really understand the work you've put behind the scenes with Rage and Review. I mean, you keep this machine going, from video editing to calling sponsors to doing all kinds of things behind the scenes that allow this thing to keep going. So, and look, this is a team effort. We all play our role, but one thing about Josh, guys, is whenever Josh wants to do something, he goes not only 100%, but 200% and putting in the extra effort to make sure that whatever product he does, it's the best that it can be. So Josh, we're going to miss you here, but like we said, he's still going to be a part of the podcast, just more behind the scenes to give him more time to do what he has to do with his own endeavors. And so Nick and I will continue these episodes. We're still going to bring the same passion, the same rawness. We're still going to talk UL sports. We might get mad at times, right? We're still going to yell. We're still going to fuss every once in a while. But one thing we want to do is we want to make sure that the fans still have a voice. We want to make sure that that there's still a passionate voice out there for Raging Cajun athletics. And again, Josh, thank you so much for enjoying the ride with us. But we know you won't be too far away. So
first of all,
best of luck to you.
Got to clear something up, Ryan. I'm not about to cry. I'm losing my voice, so I apologize for that. Number one. Number two, I mean, like I said, Josh is one of my best friends. Love the guy to death, but I do the video editing. Let's throw that out there, okay?
Jerry calls audio editing video editing. He's always done that.
You do the audio. You're the king.
It's
Ours.
the boomer technology.
But I'm just going to say that new intro thing I got, that's me. All right. I just, everybody to know that. Okay.
It's good. And look, it has so much less to do with me and so much more to do with everybody that came along. We set out to have a grassroots group of people that really wanted to push the brand forward and real Raging Cajun fans, the ones that don't waver when it's easier to pull for the other school. And I'm happy with where we are 5 years later. We've done that. We've cultivated a group of people that will go to battle on the internet if that's what it takes, or show up to the games, away games, show up to the tailgate, 6 hours early when it's 145 degrees outside. We found those people. They've come to us and been involved with the episodes and crusading against the administration if that's what it takes, or crusading against the league if that's what it takes, or whatever. The only way to push something forward is to have a group of passionate people that care about what they're doing. And I feel like we've succeeded in finding those folks and bringing them together, and that was always the goal. So it's a whole lot less about me, and it's a whole lot more about the group effort, and I'm thrilled about where it is, and I know I'm leaving it in good hands, regardless of how you want to look at it. I know I'm still a part of it, but you guys are going to do fine. You guys are going to be great. And again, you probably have a better chance at getting more leeway with the old university. So it's a win-win. So
thanks for leaving, Josh.
Yeah. Thank you for helping us out. No, all joking aside, no, Josh, thank you for, putting your time and dedicating your time to doing this with us. And once again, he won't be far away. He'll still be helping a little bit behind the scenes, but again, Nick and I are going to keep this baby rolling through these episodes and bring you the best coverage we can and best content we can for Raging Cajun athletics. But anyway, now that we got that out the way, so the Cajuns are 1-0. Opened the season the other night against the Northwestern State Demons at Cajun Field, 7:46 kickoff. I know there were a lot of factors going into that, whether it was the heat, the lightning delay, but the Cajuns came out victorious. Final score 38-13 to start the season 1-0. I had the chance to go. Josh, were you there the other night? No. Okay. So,
no, man, I didn't.
You couldn't make it. Okay.
I don't know. I could make it. I was protesting.
Oh, okay. Well, fair enough.
It's a long story. I mean, we can get into it if you want, but I mean, it's a long story.
Well, now that you let the cat out the bag, now we need to know. And inquiring minds want to know why you didn't go. Let's hear it.
I mean, you know why. You don't promote on campus. You don't market. You don't sell. You have no sales force. I'm sick of it. I'm protesting. I follow the team because I can't not follow them. I have a sickness. But my kids wanted to go to Moncus Park. And I told you guys one of the reasons why I was distancing myself is because I'm getting older. Kids are getting older. It's going to be a choice. The kids want to go to the game? That's where I'll be. Kids want to go to Moncus Park? That's where I'll be. So I kept my word. And Josh,
you would be even more pissed off if you did go, because there were 20-something thousand people in the stands and they counted 18. So maybe it's better you didn't go.
and it was hot as hell. And, what was the first half? 2 hours?
Okay, so before everybody gets mad at me, I had my 19-month-old with me. Allie came, and of course she's good luck because we won the game. But her bedtime's at 7, and so we took a chance. We make exceptions every once in a while, and this was an exception. We brought it to the game, but halftime, it was 10 o'clock when halftime hit. So we had to leave it a little early, unfortunately. No, I'm not a bad fan because I had to. I have other obligations, but and I did watch the game, and then I would watch the second half from my couch. But it was a late start. It was a late game, and we had a great time while we were there. But I mean, look, when you have families, you have obligations. Sometimes some things are more important, and this was one of them. This was one of those situations where we had to go. I mean, and because it kind of dragged, and my friends and I were in the stands. We're like, well, what about this new clock rule that college football is promoting? Right? They have this new clock rule. Time's supposed to be going by faster, and as I look at my watch, it's almost 10 o'clock, and it's not even halftime yet. So we had to leave it a little early, but again, I was able to watch the game from my couch and enjoy the second half. But it was a fun atmosphere. And look, to Josh's point, what he's trying to say is, there's been some I don't know if the admin's going to be happy to hear this, but we've talked about.
Hey, I'm leaving, so I can say whatever the hell I want now. They screwed up. Look, you can't tell the freshmen not to come to the game because there's a rush week. That's so stupid. You got to fire this lady that's destroying our Greek life. I forgot her name. I know we talked about her last year. You got to get rid of this. This is a joke. Now, the students did show up, and you got to give a huge shout out to the students because I did not expect that at all. But Jerry, you and I found out late last week that they lifted the whole freshman ban on visiting the student tailgate because Ragin' Pagin went berserk.
Ragin' Pagin, of all things, Ragin' Pagin. Yeah. So basically, what happened was there was hearsay on Ragin' Pagin that freshmen could not go to the tailgate because of rush week and because there was alcohol. And so most of us were like, well, what about the home game after that? There's going to be alcohol, and the game after that, there's going to be alcohol, and pretty much any Rage Occasion event, they're going to find a way to bring in alcohol. So what does that mean? They're banned from every game? And then you've got sophomores and juniors who aren't 21 yet. What about them? So why just freshmen? And so word got out, and fans were getting upset about it. Like, why just the freshmen? It's their first. I mean, here's the thing. When you're a freshman, let's say, for instance, you're out of state, you don't know anybody, right? You have no experience in Lafayette. You're not familiar with the area. The football game's a good way to culminate a sense of, number one, early school pride, and number two, a place where you can make friends, meet people, kind of really, acclimate yourself with the community. And then they tell you you can't go. That to me was weird. I thought that was strange. And lo and behold, sure enough, because apparently Ragin' Pagin had like a 15-page thread on it. A day later, I was told by a student that the ban was lifted, or they lifted that rule. So, everybody can say what they want about Ragin' Pagin, but apparently it had an effect on letting freshmen go to the tailgate.
Well,
unless they did.
That's not the only thing that changed, but yeah.
Yeah, but like, if we want to be big time, we always talk about how we're going to be big time and act big time and charge big time prices. I guarantee you the big time universities aren't telling their freshmen they can't go tailgate before a game. And to me, look, I'm not at all condoning illegal activity. So if you're underage, you shouldn't drink. I guess that's got to be my disclaimer.
No.
But
follow the rules.
If it's going to happen, wouldn't you rather it be in a safe environment where the kids aren't driving, right? Because they're all going to go to fraternity roll right after, and they're going to continue the party. Those kids who aren't going to drink at the game are going to go out downtown and do the same thing with their fake ID. So I'm just saying, not condoning drinking underage, but
no.
It's, I mean, you can't, if we're going to be big time, then some things are just going to be out of our control a little bit, and you just got to let it go, because that's for the authority figures to handle. That's not for the university to come down and say, well, if you're under 21, you can, is that what we're going to do now? We're going to say, if you're under 21, you cannot go to a football game?
But it wasn't if you were under 21. It was only freshmen.
I know, but I'm just saying, is that the next step?
I turned 21 when I was a junior. So that means half of my junior year, I was under 21. So why just one class when you've got two other classes that are under 21? And look, I get the liability. Trust me. I'm like you. I don't condone underage drinking. None of that.
The liability could happen to any class. There are some seniors that are not 21. They make it up as they go. And the reason why you have people like us out there, and I'm not saying that we make all the change happen, I'm saying that we're one of the factions that make change happen. You can't let these bureaucrats go unchecked. You can't do it because they make jackass rules like they made. You have look, I don't know what kind of effect on the audience that it had, but I can tell you right now that freshmen look at that potential freshmen look at that and they say, I have absolutely no desire to go to a school like that where I can't even just go have fun. Who cares if I drink? Half these people, 75% of these kids have had a drink 4 years before today. It's such a ridiculous thing to do. And it is the destruction of the Greek life that they want so badly since 2015.
Yeah, Dean said it right here. They'll go across the basin and drink. You know, if they can't do it here, they're going to go to another school and do it. So, yeah, I'm just going to stop there because I do have to stay on this podcast. You don't. There's a lot I could say about it, but you know, at the end of the day, we have to stop trying to be parents. I get we want to protect the kids as best we can, but this just didn't make any sense to me. In my opinion, made no sense.
It's liability. Again, if you're just going to if you're not going to let freshmen do it, then you got to say that about sophomores and juniors, or just not have alcohol at all. You don't just, you know, again, there's a ton of students who aren't freshmen who are under 21, and that would be breaking rules and breaking the law.
And
so
look, if we're
that's
be
where it didn't make sense to me.
If we're going to be moralistic about it, stop making Raging Cajun beer. Tell Herbie Schilling to take all his money and go back to his distribution company. We don't need his money either. Because if alcohol is such a black eye on the community, well, we don't need to take their money. So you got a school that makes their own beer, a school that has their one of their biggest donors of the last 40 years has a distributing company, but freshmen can't go because there might be drinking at the student tailgate. We're such a ridiculous assertion. It's such a ridiculous assertion. It is indicative of how they do everything else. That's what pissed me off so much about it. It was so uneven. It was so stupid. And I'm glad that it changed.
It's ready, shoot, aim, right? But
perfect.
We're not Provo, Utah, right? We're South Louisiana. We are, again, you go 50 miles across the basin, they ain't telling freshmen they can't go to the tailgate. Are you kidding me? There would be a mass revolt on campus. So hopefully they put that to bed and got over it and whatever. But it's yeah. Again, I got to stay on here, so I'm gonna stop on my tracks.
I'm with you on that. No, I mean, like I said, you can't be when you create a rule like that, you got to make sure it's justified, and you got to make sure it makes sense. And you know, and luckily they flipped it. Luckily it didn't go into effect, and you know, it turned into a great student turnout. I mean, the students, they showed up and they showed out. You know, we got on the students last year after the Troy game pretty harshly. I actually listened to it a few weeks ago, and we went on a rant, and we actually got into some arguments with students, as some of them were actually justifying not to go. And we're like, no, man, you got to go to the game. Like that. We were students at one time. We showed up to every game. And I got to tell you, the other night, before the kickoff even occurred, like when the players were warming up after the lightning delay, the crowd, the student crowd was getting into it with the players. Our team was pumping them up. I mean, it was great to see. I mean, my wife and I were looking across, and we were proud alumni looking at that. And that's why I took the screenshot, gave a shout out to the students, got a lot of retweets and comments on it, and all positive. So, you know, Red Zone UL students, we need this 5 more home games. 5 more home games. We need that same type of energy, because your presence and your energy that you brought on Saturday night created energy in the entire stadium. You're the one that makes that stadium roll. You're the one that makes Cajun Field a dangerous place. So we need that every single home game. Bring a friend. Even if they're not a student here, bring them. We need those 2 or 3 sections packed. And I'm hoping that if we could take care of business this week, and then take care of business the following week at UAB, and we can come back with a good record against Buffalo, that the Red Zone is rocking even more than it did the other night. So
hey, Jerry, we win the next 2 games, and we're gonna find a way to do the live pregame podcast from Cajun Field. How about that, baby?
I'm all about that.
All right,
I'm all about that.
I'm committing that to you.
All right. So anyways, with that said, we talked a little bit about the whole student tailgate thing. Josh, we're just gonna go through the list and just let it all out. I know it's your last episode. Mascot. All right. So as you've known, with Rager Review, I think we're on day 26 for needing a mascot. Look, it's the low-hanging fruit of fan engagement and school spirit. Okay. Other Sunbelt schools have a mascot. We brought the Cajun chicken back. You know, Mr. Russell Heim, he's not getting much younger. He's actually up there in age, and the man brought it in February. And what happened? It was the highest attended basketball game of the season because he showed up. And it was very indicative when I saw that. I'm like, you know, if the man could get into a chicken costume and turn himself into a mascot legend in Lafayette and break records for the season, a season where we went to the dance. Maybe we need a mascot. Maybe we should brainstorm something. I don't care what it is. See, everybody wants to get into the intricacies of it needs to be a gator, it needs to be a dog, it needs to be a human, it needs to be this, it needs to be that. It's not about the costume as much as it is who's in the costume. If you know the story of the Cajun chicken, Mr. Russell, the chicken costume was a last minute thing. He just saw that a chicken costume and was like, okay, I need something. I'm just going to get this chicken costume and turn it into the legendary Cajun chicken. If we could do something like that, and whoever's filling in that costume has spirit, that could be great. And that could create fan engagement. And you can go to schools, you can go to community events around town and bring that same passion and energy. And yet, it's been 6 months since the Cajun chicken showed up and not one iota of news or anything about a mascot. So Raisin Review has taken upon itself to have a campaign of we need a mascot. And every day we're going to say we need a mascot. I was like, look, it's day 1. Now we're on day 26. Pretty soon, if you follow us on Twitter, maybe by day 30, I may start saying it in different languages to make it more entertaining. I don't know. Yeah, we definitely need a new mascot. Anybody on campus, whether it's marketing or whatnot, if you're listening, we're going to keep pushing this campaign. We need a mascot.
But why is this such a secret deal where nobody wants to talk about it? Like, nobody at the university wants to talk about any type of mascot. We've been saying this. I started talking about this midway through last football season, and the fans got upset about it, and they started talking, and Twitter went wild about it. And here we are again. And now other mascots are coming to our home going, free Cayenne or whatever. Like, why is this such a big deal? This is easy. Like you said, Jerry, this is low hanging fruit. And if we want to engage with the kids that are going to be hopefully future Cajun fans, you need somebody at the schools representing the university. And it's great to look, don't get me wrong. Des going down there, some players going down there is all fine and dandy. But in 2 years, there's going to be different players, right? And you need to have something that's consistent so that the kids, as they're growing up, always look forward to it, right? So I don't get why this is such a secretive deal where nobody wants to talk about it. Maybe they are working on a mascot. Maybe they're not. Why aren't they? Why, if they're working on it, what are they working on? But when the fans are coming out with all these ideas, and then you got the albino, the gator, and some people are like, I hate it. And some people are, I love it. But it's just silence. Nobody from the administration wants to talk about it. I mean, we've not had a mascot for 10 years, it seems like.
Yeah, it's been 10 years since Cayenne's retired. And to your point about albino, you don't have to like it.
No.
You can think it's the worst thing in the world. But you know what? A UL alum took his free time and took hours and hours of designing this and trying to create something, and not a single ounce of acknowledgement whatsoever. And I'm like, you want grassroots? That was a grassroots effort. You don't have to like it, but if somebody is willing to take time out of their busy schedule, out of their work schedule, their family life, to do something like that for the school, for the university that they graduated from, don't you think you should at least acknowledge it and say, hey, you know what? Maybe this isn't what we're looking for, but hey, thanks anyway. Thanks anyway. And when we do come up with a mascot idea, maybe we can talk to you and consult with you and get your feedback. Or maybe if you want to design it for us, you can. Why not? I mean, you can't even acknowledge that. That's a problem.
Well, if we have a committee, we have a committee that decides when the bell that never rings. Okay. Like, there's an actual handbook or whatever you call it that is put together, a manual that says when that bell that we never hear ring will ring. Okay. And how many times it will ring and why it will ring. And if women's soccer wins a national championship, it's going to ring. Nobody's going to hear it because it's a Cajun field, but whatever, it's going to ring. They have a committee doing that. If we can put that much effort into a bell that we never hear ring, we can come up with a mascot. There are no excuses except for laziness, in my opinion.
Look, Cajun people, we Cajuns, we're all Cajuns here. We pride ourselves on grassroots efforts. Look, it doesn't take much for us to have fun, okay? Give us some ingredients to cook a gumbo or boil crawfish, not dusted, right? Give us some music, give us a band, Give.
What do you mean not dusted?
I'm sorry. We pride ourselves on dusting crawfish now. I forgot. My bad. But like the look that Nick just gave me.
Well, it's episode 1, man. You already getting on my damn nerves, and we're barely into it.
Oh, that's why I'm here, man. But we pride ourselves on grassroots efforts. As Cajuns, that's who we are. I mean, as long as you have music and food and a little bit of fun and some place and some space to dance and just have a good time, it doesn't take much to entertain us, right? If we have alumni and fans that are all about grassroots efforts to do something as simple as create a mascot, and you don't acknowledge it, then how do you expect the community to jump on board with something that you try to push for in the future when they see that you didn't even acknowledge that mascot idea before, right? So I just think this needs to be pushed. I know to some people it may sound petty, but again, it's low-hanging fruit. It's low-hanging fruit, and I just feel like we're letting it rot.
Agree. 100%.
I'll be succinct. L Saloom at louisiana.edu. Deluge that email address, and maybe somebody might say something. Corey paid a guy from Parish Inc. to work with him on creative. He didn't just take his free time. He spent his own money. He went all over media. He went on TV. He went on print. He went everywhere. He had an actual campaign and a strategy that he rolled out. And these people can't even give him a response. That's symbolic to me. It doesn't matter if the albino is good, bad, or whatever. If you're indifferent, who cares? One of our own, an Ivy League student at right now, he's a graduate student at an Ivy League college. He's one of our own. He took his time and his money to try to put together a mascot that we could be proud of. He asked for input. He did everything right. And they won't even give him a response. That is exactly what I'm fighting against. That type of leadership. It's a leadership. It's not leadership. It's awful. You can't even give the man a simple email. You can't respond to as many calls, requests to even have a conversation.
Sounds familiar. I mean, people giving their money to the university, giving their time, coming up with these ideas, radio silence. We get it, but we won't get into that. Let's talk about the game, Jerry.
Anyway, so yeah, but we got that out the way. But again, Cajuns victorious over Northwestern State, 38-13. Like I said before, the crowd attendance 18,186. I didn't think it was too bad. I know we laugh about it, but there were stories of people trying to get in because, of course, the new mobile ticketing app, right? New mobile ticketing. You have to enter to the gates of Cajun Field or all UL sporting events now through your mobile phones, and some of the tickets didn't scan, so they were just letting people in. With that said, the crowd was still great. I thought it was an energetic crowd. Again, I thought the students drove the bus there. Where we sat, it was pretty loud. It was a lot of fun. And I think the anticipation for football season helped with that. You can definitely tell that it was pretty boisterous. I hope to see a better crowd against Buffalo, depending on how we do these next 2 weeks. But, with the statewide burn ban where you couldn't cook or grill, the tailgating, the parking situation, I thought everything rolled pretty smoothly. I thought it rolled a lot. It was a lot better than what I expected with all of the different circumstances. And, we want to talk about game day operations, parking. Look, because of the burn ban, the parking lot across Congress, or the grass lot, there were no cars allowed to be parked there. So what they did was they allowed you to park at the Cajun Dome, and they opened up space for Lot E parking to where you could just go in and park there for free. My personal experience when I got to Cajun Field, I have an E-Lot pass, and they actually said for E-passes, you can also park in Lot D. When I got there, because I got there about 45 minutes before kickoff, we had to feed my daughter, and then we headed to Cajun Field. They sent me to Lot C. To park. And I'm looking at my wife. I'm like, why are they sending me to Lot C with an E-Pass? Because I was worried that if I park with an E-Pass and C, that they might tow my car. And so I asked the parking attendant, and she said, well, because of the flow because I enter through Congress, the flow from Bertrand, they send you, they were sending people in different directions to make sure cars weren't parking in the same spot, but I ended up parking closer to the gate or the fence off of Congress in Lot C. But one thing, if there's anything that I got out of that, okay, now we've talked about the parking situation. First of all, the perception when I pulled into Cajun Field and saw all those cars in the parking lot, it looked pretty awesome to see a full parking lot at Cajun Field.
Been
It
saying for a decade, put more cars in, it makes it look more full. People want to go in.
Perception is
It's so
key
dumb.
here. Perception is key here. When you see all those cars parked at Cajun Field, it looked like something cool was going on. It looked like the place was hopping, right? But another thing that I got out of this, okay, if I have an E-Pass, okay, and they're letting people park for free in E, and then they let the people in E go park in D, and then when I show up, they let me with my E-Pass park in C, what does that mean? You know what that means? There's a lot of spaces available. There's a lot of spaces available in the parking lot if they're letting people from E park in D and then letting my E-Pass park in C. A lot of spaces available. Why not? And this is, I'm just talking out loud. If you have that much space available and you want the parking lot to be full, here's my solution, right? Hear me out. Take the last 3 or 4 years, or we'll take 21 to 23 because of COVID and 20. Or you can even include 18 and 19. I don't care, okay? Because the parking lot didn't really change too much. They shifted a little bit, but not too much. Take the average number of passes that were purchased through those 4 or 5 years and then average them out of compared to the allotment that is offered in each of those spots, whether it's lot C, lot D, and lot E. Take the empty amount or the remaining or the difference amount of parking spots that were empty or weren't purchased and create a lot for paid parking inside of Cajun Field. Charge 10, 20 bucks. And guess what? You not only do you make money, but you can still sell C, D, and E. You make money for the general parking. And once it fills up, send the rest across the street to the grass lot in the Cajun Dome. And then here's the kicker. You make more money off of that. Why not? And now, and your parking lot looks full.
Or you take the temperature of your fan base, which we've never done, and you have a limited premium parking lot, I'm sorry. Get rid of the rest of the stupid lots that nobody even knows what the hell where they are, and you just charge $10 a pop for everybody that comes in the gate. You make it easier on everybody. And look, I'm going to pay $10 if I want to get there. If I get in, maybe 30 minutes before kickoff because you had a situation where you had your daughter and everything, I'll pay $10 to park closer to the stadium. But you have a premium lot for your boosters and whatnot. That's a limited spot. It's a gigantic field. It's a limited spot. Everybody else, $10, whatever. Come whenever you want. That's how you do it. That's how this fan base is going to respond. If they'll pay. If they don't, they'll park at the Light Center.
And people are going to pay for convenience.
We overthink it. We overthink it way too much.
I mean, think about the different apps to order food and all this stuff. And you pay a premium for convenience, so you don't have to go out and mess with anything. People will pay a premium to park close if they don't have to pay for a whole season. If they're doing it game by game, they're going to pay for it every single time, 100%.
Because Nick, I might pay $20 to park for Southern Miss, but I ain't paying that for Northwestern State. That's how people think. That is if you take the temperature of the fan base, that's what a normal, everyday Cajun fan, casual fan will tell you. Sure, I'll come to your game. Sure, I'll come to tailgate, but I'm not spending $500 or $1,500 to tailgate every game. I'll come and do it once or twice. That is the temperature of the fan base. These people fail and refuse to realize that.
Yeah, when we played Rice in baseball, I paid $10 to walk half a mile to the stadium, but it was closer than the other options. So I paid that $10 every day. I paid $30 to park. Didn't even think twice about it. People will pay.
Well, the fact of the matter is that I'm willing to bet that the parking lot in Cajun Field is not sold out of passes. And I'm willing to bet that there's a lot of availability inside the parking lot to where you can still make revenue or generate revenue to the empty spaces. And again, it makes your parking lot look more full. Now, I pulled up Kent's comment because he says it means we need a lot more $500 or better donors. That means that in order, because as you know, with RCAF, you have to give a certain amount to be able to buy the parking pass. To me, there's a way they can work that out. I think there's a way they can work that out while satisfying a general parking lot designation, which allows people to pay inside the lot.
What they want, and you know this, and I'm not giving you any breaking news here, but they want the guaranteed sold product. It's the same thing with the corporate tickets. They don't care if you show up with 20 people from, McDonald's. They don't care, but they do care that they sold the season package because they got to keep the lights on. Same thing. They see the real estate as something that we can guarantee sold. I can bring this to Maggard and say, hey, I sold this out for the season. But what they don't realize is that all those tickets that they sold or all those parking spots that they sold that aren't being used, you can do it on a game-by-game basis and double the money. Or if you don't want to try to double the money, you can use it. It's more risky, I guess is what I'm trying to say. If you show up on game day and that one is not already sold, you're kind of hoping that it gets sold. But you're still killing your client base because your client base is not going to show up for Northwestern State the way they're going to show up for Buffalo or Southern Miss or App State or whatever the case may be. But they don't want to tell you that because then it makes them look like, they don't care about butts and seats. And we've had this conversation already. It makes them,
What's scary is I understand you have to make money. It's a business. I get that. But at the same time, this is college athletics. I also don't want to look like Rice. Where, yes, they have money, they have donors, and that's great. Look, they got to the AAC conference, but then they play on TV in front of 200 people because nobody goes. Like, I don't want that model. I'd rather not to say lose a little bit of money, but take a little bit of less for more butts in the seats, if that makes sense.
You think ESPN wants to put you on the mothership when you got 500 people in the stands?
Right, exactly. I mean, that's my thing is like, I understand we're trying to make money. I respect, obviously that's what you got to do, but I don't want to turn into Rice. Oh, we sold all this parking stuff. We sold all these tickets. That's great, but nobody's showing up.
But Jerry, that's the model they're going after. You know how I know? Because Rice is full of white collar donors. Their entire donor base is white collar. Nick will tell you the same. The whole blue collar middle class fan has been completely left behind at Rice. I've been to football, basketball, and baseball over there. It's all yuppies, white collar type. It's all high dollar premium. But that's what they're trying to do.
Man.
That is the model they're going after. They don't have the staff to go after the blue collar guy. They don't have the time and the money, so they go after the white collar. And sooner or later, you're going to run the blue collar out of town. It's going to be all white collar, and nobody's going to be there. That is the model they're pursuing.
We're not sipping champagne at our tailgates. Okay. That's not who we are. We don't
Speak
have
for yourself, Jerry.
Of course, Nick will.
Now, look, if it's a morning game, I will say if it's a morning game, you're going to have your little mimosa, but
I understand. but no, that's not who we are. That's not who we are. We don't have the cheese and the crackers. We don't do that. That's, and I think that's the kind of demographic, Josh, you're talking about with those type of schools. But I really do think there is a solution to make it a win-win. I do think that, you can still have your because here's the thing, you don't want to upset the donors, right? You don't want to upset the RCAF donors, like Kent mentioned, who have to give a certain amount to RCAF and then have to pay to park. But I do think there's a solution and maybe a formula that they can brainstorm. I mean, that's why they were hired. They were hired to come up with these ideas, where I think it can be a win-win. I do. And look, if you lose a little bit of money on the back end, you know what you can do? You create more foot traffic inside of Cajun Field and by creating more foot traffic inside of Cajun Field, you create more opportunity. Empty Cajun Field creates no opportunity when nobody's there, when there's no feet walking around the tailgate spots, right? And, to our point about that 10 years ago when HUD was here, yes, I know the biggest complaint was all these people at the Cajun Field, they don't go into the stadium, they tailgate. But you know what they did? There was a lot of foot traffic in Cajun Field. And compared to the 14,000 average we had last year, we were averaging 23 to 24,000. So they were having 8,000 or 9,000 extra people, even though not all of them were going into the stadium. I would love to have more foot traffic around Cajun Field, even if they don't go to the games, if it takes having an attendance average of 8,000 or 9,000 more than what we have now.
Yeah, and because it's an event, because now you've made it an event and people want to go and be seen at these events. But when you make it difficult for people to tailgate and you raise the price on the tailgate where it's not affordable, then people aren't going to they're not going to use the spots. It's going to be empty. It's going to look bad. And who wants to go to an empty stadium? Speaking kind of like when we're talking about the parking, who wants to go? I mean, they're going to pass by and go, nobody goes to those games. It's perception.
Right, exactly. And with that said, hopefully all of this gets figured out, because breaking news a few weeks ago, the UL board approved the demolition of Cajun Field at the end of this season. We're hearing that for those of you sitting on the home side, whether you're in the upper deck or the chair backs like we are, enjoy it, because this will probably be the last season you'll be sitting in it. We are expecting demolition to occur after the season. I know Dr. Maggard has said a few times that next year, starting in 24, most of you sitting on that side, or all of you sitting on that side, including us, will be displaced, whether it's the south end zone or the student side or the east side. And then in 25 or 2025, we're hoping that that new side, the west side, will be ready to go. Brand new stadium, all refurbished. I think over 30 suites, club level, the whole shebang. So that's big news. And we'll be, as you can see by my Da Vinci drawing that I had with the crane or the bulldozer in front of Cajun Field, hopefully it becomes real. Unfortunately we couldn't simulate it. So Jerry had to use his artistic skills to show everybody, right, through a picture, that's what was happening at the end of the season.
What's funny is that
wasn't Da Vinci a scientist?
Oh,
mathematician.
I think he was a mathematician, maybe.
Yeah.
But
Picasso, maybe, Jerry.
Yeah, that's true. Why did I say Da Vinci? Sorry,
Michelangelo.
Michelangelo. How's that? Michelangelo.
Something.
My inner Michelangelo.
But going back to perception and it's so funny because TSAT fans will say they don't care about us and then chime in every time something's done. There was the announcement and then it was on Twitter or X or whatever it's called. And then you had these fans going, well, they don't even sell out their current stadium. Well, you idiot. We're lowering the capacity, because when you look at, watching SMU play last week, over the weekend, and then watching Tulane play. Tulane had 23,000 people and that stadium was packed and it looked great on TV. And that's what we need. We need that more intimate, kind of setup so that we can, one, look great on TV, even though, that 18,000 fans would look a lot bigger in Tulane Stadium. That'd look a hell of a lot better than they do in our cavernous 40,000 seat stadium. So I'm looking forward to the reduction of attendance or seating rather. And hopefully once we start getting decent attendance in that stadium, people will start showing up and it become the place to go. So fingers crossed for that. And hopefully they get it done in 2 years.
And Nick, here's the other thing. If they want to go after the white collar bourgeoisie crowd, if you have a smaller stadium, all right, and you have an event, at that point, you raise the price, and it makes sense because it's scarcity, the supply and demand. You don't have to have double the capacity. Just raise the seats, raise the seat prices. People will pay them if they need to be there. Perfect example is when Mississippi State came to town for the super or for the regional. I think I paid $110 for a general admission ticket, and that was for my brother-in-law. So people will pay it here. You just got to give them a reason to pay it. And if we have 30,000 fans and we are maybe ranked or we're going for a Sun Belt championship in our home stadium, and it gives us an opportunity to get into the playoff, which is something they never talk about around here. Now, if you win the Sun Belt, you have an opportunity for the playoff. Maybe you get a more affluent crowd that's willing to pay a couple $100 a ticket. That's how you do it.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. But anyway, we'll hopefully we can talk more about this at the end of this season. The first time the demolition ball hits the Cajun Field press box side, that's when I'm going to believe, right? As Coach Prime says, do you believe? I'll believe when that first demolition ball hits that wall.
I just look forward to more drawings from you showing the progress of the demolition.
I'll go set up a live cam out there so we can watch them work. Remember when they did that?
Oh gosh.
Prove it.
And it didn't move for like 2 months.
That's
what led Zan to go post that thread. Excuse me, what's going on here? We need money.
Of course. But anyway, no, that should be an exciting time. But in the meantime, we still had football in there. We still got 5 more home games left, or hopefully 6 with a conference championship. But starting last Saturday night, Cajuns went in and took care of business for the third time. I've said it. beating the Northwestern State Demons. And let's just talk a little bit about the game. I thought that the Cajuns played pretty well offensively with the run game. We could talk a little bit about pros and cons. I'll just give you my insight on it. Offensively, I thought the offensive line did a great job with the rushing attack. I think the running backs averaged 6.1 yards a carry. We had a few long runs, including Dre Washington's, I think it was like a 60-plus yard touchdown run to start the game. And, look, our running back depth chart is deep. You got to see Dre Washington, Jacob Kabodi. I'm not sure. I think it was Terrence Williams, or was it the Williams from Karen Crow?
Kendrell Williams.
Kendrell Williams. I mean, he looks like a bulldozer. And it was just fun to watch our rushing attack kind of play to what we've always known that we were, in spite of like last year with the lack of production from the offensive line. I really enjoyed watching our rushing attack do what they do. I mean, our offense has always been more of a run balanced attack, which sets up for the play action. So it was good to see that. I think we're going to need those bell cows in the backfield as in the next couple of weeks. But it was just good to see. I mean, Jacob Kabodi looked like he put on some muscle. I mean, he was just bulldozing everybody, kind of like his inner Trey Regis. Yeah, Dre Washington that just has a burst of speed. Zylan Perry had a few really, really good runs, including a really good kick return. Kendrell Williams, I mean, look, if it wasn't for his injury last year, I was really curious to see what he could have done, but it's good to see him back in the depth chart. Even Terrence Williams got a carry, and he looked really good in the second half. So, I mean, we're just so deep at running back. I mean, if you want to wear teams down and wear down front sevens, we got 5 guys who could start. The concerns I had offensively, and it's kind of weird because the offensive line, it's almost like a Jekyll Hyde situation where they look great with the run protection, but pass protection was lacking. I thought Ben Woldridge, just to give you a stat, 14 for 32, 223 yards passing, 3 TDs and 1 interception. For Ben to come back from that ACL injury late last year and miss the entire spring, come back in the fall and become the starting quarterback, I commend him. I knew he'd be a little rusty. Made some good throws here and there that were dropped. Made some bad throws here and there that I think he'll improve on. Obviously, I think he's got time to improve on that. But I felt like he was pressured a few times because the offensive line just, I don't know what it was. I don't know, the pass protection just wasn't there. And Ben was forced to make some throws he didn't meant to make. But all in all, look, the team scored 38 points. We could have scored 45 if we don't fumble the ball in the red zone. But I definitely think receivers and tight ends quit dropping the ball. We had too many drops, but I think that comes with youth. And again, pass protection needs to improve like now going into ODU. Defensively, I got nothing to say because they played lights out. All 11 guys, front 7, D-line, linebackers were just making tackles left and right. The secondary, as young as we are, were fantastic. They were flying around. One of our good friends, Coach Lou, he coached the Cajuns in the 80s under Nelson Stokely, told me that it's one of the best defenses he's seen since 1993. A good friend of ours, Zan Beckett, played 1 year in 1998. He knows football a lot. He said this is the best defense, fastest defense he's ever seen. So that's some big words for some people who are pretty influential with this program to say something like that, especially with the youth. Losing guys like Trey Amos and Camp Ledesco for guys to come in behind them and, as Tony would say, work while they waited, especially as underclassmen. I mean, we got a bunch of sophomores and juniors. For them to come in and do what they did, outstanding. I think the future looks bright for this defense. I think Coach Morgan had them ready, and we need that same intensity going into Old Dominion. And I'm just really excited what this young group can do. But overall, good win the other night. Another thing about offense, can't turn the ball over 3 times. That needs to be fixed. But I think it was compared to last year where we beat Southeastern 24-7. I thought the other night we played pretty well. I think we're way ahead of where we were this time last year. And look, got a tough conference opener against ODU. Let's see what happens. But it's a good way to start the season. 1-0, big win. And now we can sit here and actually celebrate that instead of complaining and being concerned about what we see or what we saw.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think going back to Ben being under pressure, watching the game on TV, I didn't see a lot of missed assignments or blown assignments. What I saw was it seemed like, and I heard this, I don't know if Des mentioned it, but I know that Northwestern State had a lot of transfers coming in. So their defense from last year's wasn't going to look the same. They didn't really know how to game plan for it. So there were a lot of situations where they brought the house and we weren't set up to cover that. So it might be more of a coaching scheme thing on the offensive line, because that left side really on the running, like you said, the running game, they really protected our running backs there. But that being said, Ben's passes, I don't know. Sometimes he was under pressure. Sometimes he wasn't. He wasn't at his best at times during that game. At the same time, if it hits you in the hands as a receiver, you got to make the catch. And there were a lot of times where that ball may have been under or overthrown just a little bit, but they had their hands on it and they dropped it. So I know this is broken record. Biggest improvement is going to be between game 1 and game 2. And wide receiver core, a lot of new guys there. So we relied on Peter LeBlanc. We relied on our tight ends to try to get things going. Pierce Meagle was involved. But next week, those guys, when we hit them in the hands, they got to make those catches. And I think we need, and I think that's why Des forced the throw a lot more than we like to see in game 1. We wanted to run the ball from the start, but I think he wanted to give the receivers a chance to get some experience and get that real game feel under their belts for game 2. So I think he forced the issue a little more than he would under normal circumstances. But again, if Ben gets the ball to you, you got to make that catch. Defensively, man, there's nothing you can say. I think Osai is going to be a beast before all is said and done. They're just so impressive. And Northwestern State, look, they're not a great team. They're going to be a lower end of the spectrum Southland team. But that being said, to be as dominant as they were, that was very, very good to see. And I think they're quite a bit ahead of the offense right now. But I think it's encouraging to know that you can lean on those guys to step up when we need them in key situations, which they did so many times last weekend. So all in all, I'd probably give it a B grade. Never thought we were ever in danger of losing the game to Northwestern State, but there were a lot of things to be concerned about that you mentioned, Jerry, and I think we just got to get cleaned up this week.
I'll comment on all 3 phases. I'll start with special teams. Special teams was up and down. You can't fumble the football on a muff, on a fair catch. First of all, Jacob Bernard as a kick returner, I had a ton of excitement about that. I wanted to see what he was able to do. It seemed like after he muffed the ball, they kind of neutered him. That just cannot happen. That's something that cannot happen. So that's concerning. Now he was sure-handed on the other, 9 punts. The guy punted 10 or 11 times, something like that. We kicked the ball out of bounds. That can't happen. The new punter, yet to be seen. Some good, some bad. It's a C+ for me, special teams wise. Kenny looked good, and he only had a couple of opportunities with the extra points and whatnot. I guess he did make a field goal as well. I don't know. I expect a lot from Kenny because he's been here for what feels like 7 years. He's got to be 5 or 6 years. He's got a lot of confidence. He's healthy. Feel good about that. Special teams got to clean it up. Got to, because I feel like we're going to be in some close games. The West looks like a gauntlet. You got Texas State going out and beating Baylor. You got, obviously Troy coming back. South Al didn't look great against Tulane, but that's a good team. ULM beat Army. The West is not going to be you will not be able to sleep on any teams in the West this year. So we have to be sharp on special teams. Defense. Okay. I said before the beginning of the year that I had a ton of faith in Coach Giuliani and Coach Scott, linebackers and defensive linemen, I thought would make the biggest jumps. I thought our front seven was the core of our team going into the season. They didn't show me anything on Saturday that makes me change my opinion on that. Casey Osai is a absolute dog. I think Caleb Edwards, Jasper Williams, Tyler Guidry, who's also been here 5-6 years, those guys at linebacker are going to be hell on wheels. I can't wait to see what they do. The defensive line, while undersized, is about as athletic as we've ever been on defensive line. Well, not as that's probably hyperbole. In the last 10 years, I don't know how athletic we've been if you take away like Juice and Ringo. Other than that, Sonny is healthy, and he has a motor, and he's very strong. You got Nigel McGriff, who was everywhere. I was so impressed with number 10, big time. Weiser, I didn't see Weiser make a ton of plays, but if he's in the mix, he's going to make a big impact because he's got all the talent you would possibly want. And then, of course, you got Bayless, who everybody, Foot wrote about him, and everybody kind of knows his name, but he was in on a couple of big plays. Fast, physical, quick, agile. While not huge, they lived in the backfield. And look, Northwestern State's offensive line was just slow and terrible, and we can get into all that, but I'm just evaluating what we did. I was so happy with the play of the guys up front on defense. The secondary, I'm going to start with the safeties. Tyrone Lewis and Tyree Skipper might be better than Braylon and Percy together. Because, listen, Tyree Skipper, he's young. He doesn't have a lot of snaps under his belt, but you can play him at the star. You can play him at linebacker. You can put him on the line to blitz, to be a pass rusher. And he's good in coverage because he's one of the fastest guys on a team. And he's huge. I don't know if y'all noticed. He's like 6'1", 225. Dude's absolutely huge. So Tyrone Lewis is your thumper, and he's like Campadesclo size. But he's in on run support. He does now. This is yet to be seen, but I want to see what he can do deep. When he's the last line of defense, I want to see how free of a free safety he can play. So that's something to be seen. But he was everywhere that he needed to be. He caused problems on blitz packages, and he was good in coverage. And he hits people, and I love that. You mentioned, Jerry, the youth of the cornerbacks. Amir McDaniel's been in the mix for quite a while now. I think he's a junior. Now, he hasn't been a starter, but he's played a lot. And I don't know how much. You lose Trey Amos, you lose a ton. Okay, so you can't expect him to be Trey Amos at the gate, but the guy's ceiling's pretty high. Then you got Caleb Edwards, who's 6'1" or 6'2". He's a former wide receiver. He can do everything that I'm thinking of Washington. Washington from Iowa State, number 16, made a great impact, shut down one of the best receivers in the Big 12. He reminds me of Washington, and I can't remember his first name, and I apologize, but he reminds me of that size, physical. He's still learning on the job, so he's a little bit raw, but Caleb Anderson's going to be a playmaker for us. I really believe that. And we have guys in a 2D that can play as well. Don't sleep on these young guys. Don't forget about C.J. Caesar. He's in the mix. He's huge. He's not a girthy guy, but he's also 6'1". I think he's like 190 right now. He's going to grow into his role. He's still a sophomore. So you got guys that are going to play in the 2D. The defense is going to be the strength of this team. Make no mistake about it. We got stars at every single level of the defense. And I'm excited to see what we do against ODU, more, level competition. Because, look, Northwestern was not good. Offensively, I love that we sprung some big plays, but I don't want to be relying on a big play offense. I want to be able to control the clock, run the football, go up and down the field. Now, if you look at the stats, we were balanced. We had something like 220 yards passing and 190 yards rushing, if I remember that properly.
Yeah, we had 223 yards passing, 206 yards on the ground.
206, so good. So you balance there.
Right in between, yeah.
And some of that you can attribute to play calling, which is great. You saw a healthy Pete who looked good. He ran his crisp routes. He had an extra step. That's the guy that we remember from 2021. That's who we need. He's not just a possession receiver. He can go out there and make big plays for you. You saw that. You had that. You saw Neil Johnson flash across the screen multiple times. Now, look, I want him to catch the football a little better. I thought that there was a couple of opportunities that he had, but I'm not going to put that all the way on Neil. Some of that is timing, and Ben's working himself back into the mix, and timing is what it is. And like Nick always says, game 1 to game 2, you're going to have the biggest improvement. So I'll wait to see that. I was impressed by the young tight end, 86, Williams. Was it Williams? Super impressed. Now, he looks like a little bit of an undersized tight end. He reminds me of a Jimmy Graham type, not a blocker, but a true receiver out of the tight end role. He caught some balls on kickoffs as an up back, and he made some plays. So you got that. You got some explosiveness there. You got a lot of youth in the wide receiver core. I was happy to see Harvey get some passes. Obviously, they have some confidence in him as a young, what is he? He's going to be a redshirt freshman.
Yeah, he's a freshman.
So, you got to be happy about that they went to him a few times in the second half. And, he dropped one. He made a catch. And it's going to be a work in progress, but it's good. That's raw talent right there. He's just going to have to develop with reps. And it's good to see that.
Well, I think we saw a lot of similarities in 2020 going into Iowa State. Remember, we had some veteran guys who got hurt, and then you had guys
Cluster
like
injury there.
Yeah, a lot of injuries. You had guys like Errol Rogers come in, Dante Fleming, both of which are gone now, but guys like those two stepped into the role as freshmen and lit it up, and we ended up going 10-1. So, I had the chance to go to the quarterback club luncheon, and somebody had asked him about that with the youth of our receiving corps, and Coach Leger was also a guest speaker, and of course he coaches wide receivers, and he even said that. He said, with the youth, they have to develop, but at the same time, they have shown flashes in camp to show that they can play, and I think Pete was a guest speaker as well. And he said the same thing. He said, they're young, but at the same time, they're learning. They have they're learning pretty fast. So the only way you can really learn at this level is getting play time and going out there and just getting your feet wet, being able to, get used to the speed of the game as opposed to high school, being able to have a few passes thrown at you, right? When you're in coverages. And I think that was the best opportunity for those guys the other night. Even if they would have dropped a ball or two, you got to throw to them. It's almost like baseball. Like Tony used to talk about, you're not going to get experience if you don't pitch, right? Same thing with these young receivers. And I think they're going to develop as time goes on. If you're a freshman and you're on the field already, you must be pretty good. We could have gone the JUCO route. We could have go get somebody in the portal. We got a bunch of freshmen starting. So
drops don't bother me right now. I mean, people are going to catch the ball. Pete has had issues with drops. I'm not worried about that. The issue is that we've got plenty of talent, and it's just going to take some reps. Now, I was happy to see Meagle get targeted. I'd like to see Jacob Bernard get more targets. I don't know what that was all about, but I want to see veterans get some opportunities early in the season. Now, I know they want to target the young guys and get them some reps. I get all that. I want to see the tight end room used, and it was. So I'm happy with that. Y'all know I love that. I was underwhelmed with the offensive line, the right side in particular. I will give Northwestern State some credit. They had a guy on the left side of their defensive line, right side of our offensive line, that really just whipped the absolute piss out of our right tackle all night long. Just beat him regularly. Fast, quick, had some great moves. Nothing but pursuit, relentless. It was interesting to watch. We've got to figure out who – there's about 8 guys that can play right now. And I stayed up late with I'm not going to say that. I talked to somebody on the staff last night, and we stayed up late talking about the shuffling of who's going to play when, and there's a couple of undisclosed injuries that aren't being shared right now. Not everybody's up to 100%, so there's going to be some movement. I will say that it was nice to see Burton back at center. You could tell that it had been, the middle of the offensive line had been solidified to a certain degree, so that was good. Gilly looked good. At times, I expected more, if I'm being honest. The offensive line has got to be more consistent. Now, you guys mentioned the run blocking, and it was good, but I thought that the run game was its most effective when we ran stretches and pitches. And I give all the credit to wide receivers and tight ends on that. If you go back and watch that, we had some tight ends and some wide receivers that were blocking their ass off. And that sprung a couple of big runs, Dre Washington's run in particular. So the run game as a whole, it looks good
on the left side of the line.
On the left side, the running back room is hella deep. Zylan Perry, outside of the fumble and there in the red zone, that's tough and that's young, and that can never, ever, ever, ever happen. And hopefully he learns from it. But that guy's a home run hitter. I want him touching the football, whether it's out of the slot, whether it's out of the backfield, whether it's on kick returns, whatever it takes. He has got to touch the football. And my last comment will be, also Cabote. Cabote's healthy, and he's the bruiser that we need, that we missed. We need him, and he runs inside, especially between the tackles. I was very impressed by his running and his toughness. Last thing is Ben Woolridge. You can't question the guy's toughness, okay? He's out there with a wrapped knee. He's coming off an ACL quicker than everybody thought. He ran down a guy that, recovered a fumble. He ran down 75 yards and saved a touchdown. I will never question his toughness. So, what I'm about to say has nothing to do. He's obviously a leader. The guys play for him, all that stuff. However, you got to be better than 14 out of 30, 14 out of 32. Now, I know, look, some of the pass, you're not going to have a pinpoint accuracy pass every single time you throw it. But we missed some big time plays down the field because of either bad decisions, inaccurate passes, and yes, he was under pressure a whole lot, and that's not his fault. But he's got to be better. I got to see more out of you. I got to see the ball on the numbers, not behind people. On a crossing route, you got to lead him. You know, how many times did that happen where Pierce Meagle is doing a 5 and out and the ball's behind him or on his hip or at his feet? Like, that can't happen. It happened too many times. It wasn't 2 or 3 times. It was 6 or 7 times.
And throwing into double coverage.
Thrown into double coverage, staring at receivers and then forcing the ball. Again, I'm going to give him a ton of leeway because he's coming off an injury. He hasn't been in the mix. This is basically his spring. And I get it. And I understand it. And I know he's tough. And look, I got a ton of respect for the guy. I think that if you sat down with Ben right now, he would tell you, I got to be better. This was not good enough. And that's what I'll say. You know, it might not be a popular opinion, but the fact of the matter is that if you have an offensive line that's going to struggle to pass protect, you got to have a guy back there that's able to make something out of nothing. And I know Ben busted a couple of plays, but those were called keepers, okay? And I've also been a guy that thinks that Zion should be getting some reps. And maybe because we pissed and moaned all year last year about a 2-quarterback system, Mike is going to stick it to us and not play 2 quarterbacks, which I respect. I respect it, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I need somebody back there. If you have an offensive line that's developing and going to give up some pressure, I need a quarterback that's able to make plays. And I don't know if Ben is that guy right now. And I'm not saying he shouldn't start before everybody freaks out. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, look, if you're going to be that pocket guy and we're going to run a balanced pro set, you got to be able to deliver the football, even when you have a hand in your face. That has to be who you are. And that's my rant.
But here's the concerning part, Josh, is that some of those passes that he underthrew, because there was a lot more underthrows than overthrows, a lot of those passes, he was not under pressure. I don't know if he was anticipating pressure. I don't know if he was not seeing the receivers well. I don't know if there was something he wasn't expecting, but there were a lot of times he wasn't under pressure and he had some missed throws. So I think there's no doubt that the offensive line and Ben have to get better next week if they want to have another win. If they play next week like they played this past weekend, it could be an iffy situation, especially on the road against an FBS opponent who, by the way, I know they didn't have a great week 1, but they beat Notre Dame last year. And I know they ended up going like 3-7 or something like that, but didn't they beat Notre Dame? Who did they beat last year?
They beat Tech.
Marshall beat Notre Dame.
Tech, sorry.
That's okay. No, Virginia Tech got back at them last week.
That just goes to show you that they have some pieces in place. Didn't all work out, but they can beat any Sun Belt team at any time. I don't think there's any Sun Belt team we're going to play this year that can't beat us. It's Texas State. They've never beaten us in football. Guess what? We got, like you said, Josh, we got a tough West to schedule this year. So glad you mentioned the 75-yard run or whatever it was stupid that Ben went tackle that guy. That was insane. I don't think I've ever seen that. But again, as I was saying, getting better. The one thing that is carrying over from last year to this year is third down. We were not good on third down again.
Thank you for saying that. I wanted to say that. It was like 2 for 12 or something. I got to figure out third down.
I know. And again, this is the second year, 4 for 14. And I wouldn't even say second year. I mean, this has been, I think under Billy, we had the same problem. I know that was one of the big drawbacks. And I get it that we didn't have a whole lot of third downs maybe, but when we did have a third down, we could not execute. We're better on fourth down than we're on third down. And we shouldn't be in that position to have to go forward on fourth as much as we do. So that, again, it's a trend that we've seen over the past couple of seasons that has got to reverse if we want to be successful and we want to be better than we were last year.
And I know Coach Des alluded to that, I believe, today in his press conference. He mentioned that third down conversions. I mean, it's very important. And when you play teams in your conference that know who you are and can capitalize on stopping you, that's when you know that those numbers have to go up. And, to your point about Ben, look, I think Ben's still recovering from his injury. I knew he would have a little rust this week, but I will say this, going 14 for 32 against an FCS opponent, those numbers have to get better. 14 completions out of 32 attempts. That's That's not going to cut it. And he knows that. The coaches know that. So hopefully, going, like you said, the biggest improvement is from week 1 to week 2. Hopefully we can see a difference this week against the Monarchs in Norfolk.
But again, to wrap it up, when Ben is having a tough time getting the ball out, his receivers have to help him at some point. And it seemed like they didn't, when if it wasn't, precisely where the receivers needed it to be, they were dropping passes. So they've got to help him out. I'm not saying that would have, made a huge difference, but next week, if he's starting to under or overthrow, we gotta be athletic enough to make some of those completions.
I agree. But anyway, to wrap it up, again, Cajuns victorious 38-13 over the Demons. They will travel to Old Dominion on Saturday, and the Demons, we wish Northwestern State the best of luck the rest of the year, because they head over to Ruston this weekend to take on the juggernaut CUSA without the dash. Mighty CUSA powerhouse, Louisiana Tech Bulldogs. So best of luck to the Demons. Make us proud so we can get more material and content out to post a certain video that we like to post. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about the Old Dominion Monarchs. New conference members as of 2022. They are coming off a loss at Virginia Tech. It looks like the coach Brent Pry and the Hokies got their revenge on what happened last year in the season opener in Norfolk when ODU took care of business. The Cajuns open up as a 6.5-point favorite against the Monarchs. This will be the first meeting between the two schools. Kickoff will be at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I believe it's, of course, ESPN Plus. Turn it on, and you'll see the Cajuns take on the Monarchs there. A little bit about ODU. They lost by the score of 36-17 to Virginia Tech. Their quarterback is junior Grant Wilson. He threw for 94 yards and I believe 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. He was 13 of 25 for 94 yards, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. It was actually the leading rusher on the team against the Hokies, 81 rushing yards. So it looks like we have a mobile quarterback and somebody who has a decent passing attack. 94 yards seems kind of low, but again, 2 touchdowns, not bad. Running back Keyshawn Wilkes. Next behind Wilson was the leading rusher not leading rusher, but leading running back rusher with 14 carries, 73 yards, no touchdowns. And they have some talent in the receiving core with Isaiah Page, wide receiver Isaiah Page, 2 receptions for 17 yards. So I got some information. Looks like the ODU Monarchists, ODU fan podcast that we're good friends with, by the way. They actually wrote a recap on the ODU Monarchs loss to Virginia Tech. And some things that stuck out to me, offensively, they gave up 5 sacks. So it looks like their offensive line struggled a little bit against the front 7 of Virginia Tech's defense. And they couldn't create separation with their receiving core. So there's a little bit of similarities that I saw as far as issues go that they faced against Virginia Tech that we had against Northwestern State. Now, granted, they played Virginia Tech and we played Northwestern State, but there's a lot of similarities there to where I think when we look at the film, we can say, okay, there's some things that we can capitalize on and take advantage of. Defensively, Virginia Tech had 109 yards rushing. So it looks like Old Dominion's defense is pretty solid. They're pretty solid against the run, but we had over 200 yards rushing. It'll be interesting to see the battle between our rushing attack versus their rush defense. And they struggled to get a pass rush, and their secondary looked like they blew some coverages. So maybe that can kind of work into play with our passing game and our pass protection. Hopefully that can kind of create some opportunities to where we can make up for some lost time last week. So the matchups look pretty interesting. Again, we're a 6.5-point favorite. I'm actually kind of surprised we are going on the road. It's going to be an intense game. You're playing in unfamiliar territory. I know Coach Dez and the guys will be ready to go, but this is a very unfamiliar team. We've outside of watching them and in other games, we don't really know much about them because we haven't really played them. But again, I got to give a shout out to ODU Monarchists. They reached out to us and look, in the next couple of days, they're going to probably produce an article about the Cajuns, this upcoming game against us. And Rage and Review was able to give some insight from our point of view, a little bit about our podcast, as well as what can we expect on Saturday in Norfolk. So, to be honest with you guys, if I could give a prediction, I mean, honestly, on paper, I think we are a little bit more talented. I do think we're probably we'll probably have a little bit more speed. But again, these type of games are dangerous when you go on the road against a team you've never played, because you really don't know. Like it's easy when you go up against Arkansas State, or when you go against a team in your conference that you face every year, because you see them every year. You know their offseason moves, you know what they're doing, whether it's coaching changes or personnel. With this team, it's new. I don't know what to expect. But I'll say this: this is a very important game for us, not only because it's the conference opener, but if there's any game for us to make up for the mistakes we made last week, to go on the road, to open up the conference slate in the second week and win, that'll bring a lot of momentum going into UAB. And so I'm hoping that we can exploit some of those disadvantages or some of those weaknesses that they have. For example, they struggled against the passing attack against Virginia Tech. That gives us opportunity. And hopefully our rushing attack can overpower their defense. Again, they got a good rush defense. So I'm excited about it, but I'm also very curious, if that makes sense. I'm very curious to see what we're going to look like against the Monarchs.
Yeah, to your point about it being unfamiliar territory and you never know what that's going to be like. I mean, you think back to baseball and James Madison. We go out there, we get swept, unfamiliar, right? And I feel going into this game kind of like I did that series, not knowing really what to expect. I intended to watch them play over the weekend, but I don't remember what happened. Something happened and I wasn't able to catch the game. But from what I've understood or read, that they might have a little bit of experience on both sides of the ball. They're not going to be in a situation with their receivers. Now, again, they played Virginia Tech, so the receivers not getting separation, that's probably a reason for it. But I don't know. This one's weird. This one's just one of those kind of games that you just show up and see what happens and wish for the best. Like I said, we've got to get better. We've got to play a lot better offensively than we did last weekend. Defensively, I think we'll be fine, but offensively, we've certainly got to be more consistent. We've got to be better on third down. Ben's got to be better with his throws. Our receivers got to be better with their hands, and our offensive line has got to be better with pass protection, because that just was not there this weekend. So I don't know. This one's going to be interesting. Do I think we're 6 points better than ODU? I think we are, but do I think it'll be closer than that? I kind of do. I think it'll be a close game. I think we're looking at a 3-point game. And to your point that you said earlier, Josh, special teams has got to be better as well. And it may come down to a field goal, or it may come down to pinning them back with a punt late in the game to hold them from scoring. So we got to be better. We got to be better than we're against Northwestern to expect to come out with a win.
I agree, and they hold all the cards. You know, I mean, they played up. We played down, opponent-wise. They're at home. We've never been there. Just in general, I mean, like you said, they're an experienced team. They have a lot of experience. Now, Ricky Ronnie runs that old Bill Schneider Kansas State offense, where his quarterback might run 25 times and throw it 12 times. So we have to be prepared for that. And we haven't played an offense like that in quite a while. Not quite like this. They are physical. They are huge up front on the offensive line. Their defense is pretty damn stout. Their front seven in particular, and their defensive line, if I remember right, they weren't necessarily a great pass rushing bunch, but they were great run stoppers, and they have a lot of beef up front, especially at the nose tackle. So we're going to find out if we're going to run the football. And I got to be honest with you, based on what Northwestern State showed me, they had a decent defensive line, but we've got to be better than that. And if we're going to be successful as an offense in 2023, we got to be able to run the football. And we can't run the football if the guys in the middle don't push. And I wasn't impressed with it. I'm just being honest. So hopefully that big improvement that you always mention, Nick, happens. But I'm shocked that it's 6 points. I'll be honest with you. As somebody who follows handicapping and watches these things and then watches these lines, I would have thought 3-4 points, especially being on the road. I really am shocked. Now, I will say, watching ODU last year and this year, their strength is their physicality. Our strength is our speed. That's defense and offense. I think that they're going to rely heavily on their ability to push us around in the trenches, and we're going to rely heavily on our ability to pop big plays and use our speed. I think that's the matchup that we all need to be watching for. But special teams, you nailed it. Got to be sharp. Cannot do what we did on Saturday. Got to be sharp. And offensively, control the clock, run the football. Ben's got to be better, period. And you can't turn the damn football over 3 times. Cannot do that. We're already we're -2, I think, Jerry, in the turnover margin. You turn it over twice against ODU on the road like that, you're not coming out with a win. I expect this game to be nip and tuck. So I'm excited. I'm excited. It's 2 different styles of football that are going to be clashing. Saturday Sun Belt football. I'm excited. Now, everybody thought that when the Sun Belt expanded, the East was going to be the juggernaut. Well, it turns out the West is actually really good. We kind of mentioned that earlier. The East looks like it's kind of down. But look, ODU was in the game with Virginia Tech late into the third quarter. This thing wasn't a walkover like the final score indicates. It was a good football game late. So it's interesting. It's interesting. I hope Ben gets his timing down, and I hope we can air it out a little bit just to make him honest. But I feel like we're going to rely on the run game to score points.
What I'm interested to see is our offensive line struggled with speed, because you often see that with FCS teams. They're not going to be big, but they're going to be fast. And they were fast. And they beat us so many times because of their speed. And now you're going up against, like you said, physicality, a physical team. It'll be kind of interesting to watch that and see how that plays out, because we didn't do so well against the speed of Northwestern State this weekend. You just muted yourself, Jerry. And you muted yourself somewhere else. So I don't know. We can't hear you.
We've gone haywire. Are you plugged in?
Now he's getting the same problems that I had earlier.
You might have to restart, pal. You might have to just restart your browser. But it's fine. Look, I can ramble. The ability for Northwestern State to constantly set the edge in a run game, that should not have happened. And then the ability for their pass rushers to get around our tackles, especially on the right side, and whoever that is, I'm not going to say anybody's name, but I feel bad for saying it over and over, but the right side was it was chaotic.
But how many times did you see a guy now? And this is why I said, I don't know if they weren't prepared coaching wise for this team, because how many times did I see the right side of the offensive line stand there as 2 guys ran past him?
Yeah.
And looking left when the pressure's coming from the right. So that's why I don't understand if that was missed
communication, Nick.
or right there. Exactly.
And that could come from the quarterback as well. I mean, if he's not signaling out the right assignments for the offensive line. Now, I know in a lot of offenses that's the center's job, but in some offenses it is it would be Ben's job, be the quarterback's job. Now, that would be a question for Mike, something we could ask him if we could talk to him. But that's a communication issue. And they blitzed a lot. So some of it might be some inexperience, but look, this offensive line is not last year's offensive line. Last year's offensive line, you could say, look, they're inexperienced, they're young, they're this, they're that. This ain't that. We had a lot of underclassmen get a lot of reps last year. So if you want to talk to me about inexperience, I ain't ready to hear that. Somebody's got to do their job at some point, and the right side of the offensive line got to step up against ODU because they're going to try to lean on their physicality and push you around. That's just a fact. Go watch the Virginia. I didn't watch the whole Virginia Tech game, but if you watch the first little bit, I watched probably the first quarter and a half. They were physical in the trenches, and they will be against the Cajuns. We got to be ready for that. Jerry, you ready to take over?
Can y'all hear me?
Hey, he's back.
Loud and clear,
There
baby.
we go. All good, all good. Yeah, I think going into this game again, you're playing a team in unfamiliar territory, but at the same time, I do think, we have the talent, and we just have to execute. That's what it's all about. Just execute. And I think pointing out their weaknesses, especially with the fact that they struggled against the pass. That's what I'm going to be looking for. I'm going to be looking to see what our passing attack looks like and seeing what type of pass protection we can have. And defensively, if it's true that their receivers could create separation, if it's true that, their quarterback got 94 yards passing, I do think that our defense's opportunities to A, create turnovers, and B, win the field position battle I think that's huge because I do trust the fact that our 5 running backs can go against their rush their rush defense, even though they played well against Virginia Tech. I think that could carry us. I see a game pretty similar. Hopefully, I could see a game similar to what we saw against Marshall last year, where we won the field position battle, we forced some turnovers, we made some key plays, and our offense stayed on the field for the most part and made the plays they had to make. Nothing spectacular, nothing fancy, but did enough to move down the field and score, where their offense really was pretty non-productive because of what our defense was able to do, both in the air and against the run. So
well,
again,
Nick said it. We're more talented. If we line up and play Cajun football, we can win the game. We should win the game.
Absolutely.
But do we execute? Like you said, do you execute? Do you execute? Do you not turn?
You convert third downs. Do you fumble the ball at the goal line?
Stay on the field on third down, and that's a big, huge part of that game. Stay on the field because they are going to munch clock. That's what they want to do. That's their offense.
And with the new rules about first downs, not stopping the clock, that is your advantage. If you can convert third downs and run the ball, that is a huge advantage now.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. So with that said, Cajuns travel up to Norfolk, Virginia this weekend to take on the Old Dominion Monarchs, or ODU Monarchs, for the conference opener. Game time is set for 5 p.m. Central Time. You can see it on ESPN Plus or tune into 103.3 The GOAT or Hot 107.9 and or what is it, 1420 as well too, I believe, right? So yeah, no excuse. Watch the game, listen to the game, enjoy. Hopefully the Cajuns can go 2-0. So other news around campus, around the complex, Raging Cajuns volleyball. Good start to the year. 4-3. They went to Lubbock over the weekend, went 1-2. They were able to take care of business against Texas A&M Commerce, and that was coming off a win against Rice. 3-0, number 18 Rice, first win against a ranked opponent in over a decade, or in a very long time. Congratulations to the girls on that win. They went to Lubbock 1-2, lost 3-2 against Wyoming in the second match, and then lost 3-0 against Texas Tech. But I think Coach Christy Gray's got something cooking with this team. You definitely see a lot of excitement. They actually lost. They were up 2-0 against Mississippi State a little over a week ago. Ended up losing 3-2. But at the same time, I mean, this team you definitely see they compete. They're fun to watch, and I'm excited to see what they bring back to Earl K. Long, because the atmosphere is going to be fantastic. Have you guys been able to follow a little bit of the volleyball team?
Yeah, and what's cool is that living in Houston, one of my actually two of my neighbors who have no affiliation with the university back in Louisiana, both were like, "Man, you guys beat Rice this weekend." I'm like, "How did you know that?" So people are talking about it. It's exciting. Look, Christy is doing a fantastic job. The cupboard was not bare when she got here, but she is really built on the success that we had before. So look, she's doing a great job. I look for them to do great things in conference this year, and just keep building on the success that they've had earlier in the season. Obviously, a couple of disappointing losses at Mississippi State. I think they were up 2-0, and then Mississippi State came back and won 3-2. But got to clean some of that up, and I think it's going to be a good season for them.
Signature win for Coach Christy Gray. I don't know much about Rice's volleyball program, but obviously it's well respected if it's ranked in the top 20. So you got to be excited about that, and they swept them. They beat them in straight sets. I mean, that's a pretty interesting performance and result. Would like to see them come back stronger against Texas Tech there, but it is what it is. I mean, that's good competition. We know Texas Tech has had a strong program for a multitude of years. But look, what's going to happen in conference is really the ultimate. Texas State has been the dominant force in this conference for I don't know how long. It's felt like forever. But they were very good when they came here to Lafayette last year, and they were good in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. So right now, it's really nice to get a win out of conference against a team like Rice. Let's rebound, come home, and start stacking some W's in conference. You got a lot to look forward to in the volleyball team.
Yeah, so that's volleyball. They will be playing the school across the basin, OTSAB, Wednesday at 11 a.m. You can catch them, I believe, on the SEC Network or SEC Network Plus. I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up, but they will be back in action on Wednesday morning. And moving on to Cajun soccer, Coach Chris McBride and the ladies traveled down to Florida. They lost a close match against a really good FAU squad, 2-1. They tied FIU 2-2, and they will be back on Thursday to take on Alcorn State at the track complex. And I believe the game will start at 6 p.m. So if you want to go catch some Cajuns women's soccer, they will be playing here on Thursday.
It's free. It's
and
free
it's
to
free.
walk in,
Yes,
folks. Go
it is
support
free.
the girls.
They have a 3-1-2 record. They're off to a great start, probably one of their best starts ever. And you can definitely tell the improvement from last year. Now that Coach McBride has had a full offseason to work and not have to kind of come in at the last minute and build everything from scratch. He's got something special as well. So, besides football, you've got a volleyball team and a soccer team that are both very competitive. So best of luck to them. Nick, quick question. Did you ever so whenever I forgot to ask you this, when the volleyball team played at Rice, did you think about going?
No, because I didn't know it was happening. I found out like that day they were playing, and I was like, "Oh, okay. There's a volleyball game going on." So no, I did not. I did not make it down there.
Gotcha. So before we go, there's one more thing I wanted to do. We discussed what was happening around the Sun Belt. Just a quick rundown of the Sun Belt this past weekend. The Sun Belt Conference went 10-4. Against their competition. Just to give a quick rundown, starting Thursday night, Georgia State was victorious over Rhode Island 42-35. I don't know how that happened. I guess they can celebrate the win, but they were down, I think, like 28-21. And I tweeted something on the Razor Review app like, seriously? Rhode Island? Really? But luckily they redeemed themselves, got the W. But man, that was what a close game that was. It was actually a good shootout. Rhode Island, they're not a bad team being an FCS program. So good win for Georgia State. Arkansas State. Wow.
Butch Jones.
The Butch Jones experiment's over.
And they just signed him to an extension. So they're stuck with him for a few years.
Based on what? He's not won anything since he's been there.
He's both the AD and he got extensions. And I think the AD is big Butch Jones fan. So I don't know, man.
Well,
Good
they
God.
can be big Butch Jones fans as they want, because Arkansas State destroyed. I mean, just dominated by Oklahoma.
It looked like he was going to cry. Did you see that?
Yeah. But for those of you who didn't know,
I didn't know they just extended him, man. That's worse than the Marlin contract.
Well, yeah. Anyway, final score: Oklahoma 73, Arkansas State nothing or 0. Ooh, 73-0. What a way to open up your season. Just imagine 8 months of preparing for one team, and you go out there and you lose 73-0.
And it's like not like they were ranked number 1 in the country or anything. They're ranked. They're a good team. They're ranked 20th, but
they were coming off a 6-6 year last year.
Come on, man.
Jeez and Pete's. But anyways, yeah, they got.
I don't
have
have
a lot
to
of
imagine
work to
it
do.
happened to us 10 times in my lifetime.
Yeah,
Washington State.
Well, 77-7. Wazoo. I remember 1997. Thank God we're past that. Anyway, App State. Actually, App State had, they had a little challenge against Gardner-Webb, but they were able to win the game. They were victorious in Boone, 45-24. JMU walk in the park against Bucknell, 38-3. Georgia Southern dominated the Citadel by a score of 34-0. Marshall had a little tough time against Albany. Albany was always kind of that March Madness team that I was used to seeing on the bracket. And then all of a sudden you look at the score against Albany in football and they won 21-17. Close game there, but luckily they got the win. I hate to do this, but I got to give a shout out to the Warhawks. Good win against at home in Malone Stadium against Army, 17-13.
That's
impressive win.
That's a great W bringing back to the Sun Belt.
It's a good win.
See, this thing, people try to make you a rival. They're not a rival. I don't ever think of them. So when they get a good win like that, I have no issue saying, "Great job, Warhawks."
Exactly. Oh my gosh, the horror. But you're leaving anyway, so it's fine. It's all good. Anyway, defending Sun Belt champion Troy, victorious over Stephen F. Austin at home by the score of 48-30. Southern Miss Easy win over Alcorn State, 40-14. As we talked about, Virginia Tech was victorious against Old Dominion, who will be, of course, our next opponent by the score of 36-17. South Alabama, I think they'll learn their lesson about putting Mardi Gras theme football helmets. I guess they tried to do that as a diss, and Tulane definitely took that seriously. Tulane got the win over the Jaguars by the score of 37-17 in New Orleans. And Coastal Carolina went to Los Angeles to the Rose Bowl, played UCLA to a tough matchup, but just weren't enough against the Bruins. The UCLA Bruins defeated the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers by a score of 27-13. Of course, the Louisiana Raging Cajuns victorious over the Northwestern State Demons 38-13. And last but not least, the pride of San Marcos, Texas State going to Waco against Baylor. Victorious over the Baylor Bears, 42-31. Job well done to the Bobcats.
Yeah, our former D coordinator still, isn't he still over there with Aranda?
Ron Roberts?
I don't know.
Yeah, Roberts.
As far as I know.
Yeah, I think he is. I think so.
Hey, that's a great win, though. I mean, look,
Huge.
I think we've got like a 4 or 5 year streak here where Sun Belt teams go out and out of conference and get big wins. And Texas State, look, I know they're one of our opponents and our peers, but I'm so happy for them. They have all the facilities, they have the talent, they have all the money. They deserve to be a good program. Look at their baseball program. The fans show how much they support. You know, their basketball team has been up and down, but their fans show out for that. And their poor football team just could not get it together. They finally got some new leadership last year with an AD and a new president and everything. And it seems like things are starting to turn the right way for the guys out in San Marcos. So that's a huge win, and it also bolsters the West. And I keep saying it, the West has been putrid for so long. It's going to make it more interesting with a guy like TJ Finley going out and beating Baylor, and then when they come here this year, right? When they come to town, you know, people are going to perk up for that game. They're going to know who TJ Finley is. They're going to be interested to see that game. So that's great for the league, and I'm happy for him. That's a great win.
And it was long overdue.
I was just gonna say before you Jerry, our home schedule is perking up this year, man. I mean, you got Buffalo, Texas State is performing, Southern Miss is coming to town. If you can't get pumped up for those games, then you ain't a Cajun fan. You ain't a college football fan.
Well, shit,
right.
Buffalo played Wisconsin heavy.
I know
game.
They did.
I was impressed by them. They're good.
They did lose, but it was a good game. And they're going to be a challenge for us. They've got some size. They've got some skilled players. They're physical. They're not the normal, you know, MAC school that runs a spread and you outsize them and outspeed. No, they're good. They're a good football team. So they're going to be a challenge as well. But again, that's going to do it for the Sun Belt or around the belt. 10-4 this week. Good week. Obviously you need like Arkansas State. Hopefully they have a pulse. They play Memphis this week in Jonesboro. But man, that was a tough one to see, but overall a good week for the belt. By the way, I found an interesting stat. So you talked about the Sun Belt schools winning against the Big 12, Josh. I believe since 2019, I think the Sun Belt has a 500 record against the Big 12.
Yeah, that's right. 6-6.
That's impressive. Look, man, we're moving on up, man. We're moving on up slowly but surely. So
they're going to give us our respect, or we're going to take it.
That's right. That's right. Look, we're fighting for that top G5 spot. And I think right now
Cajuns get Minnesota this year.
Yeah.
And I love the way it comes in the schedule. It's later down the year. We have some opportunity to get into a rhythm, and we're clicking on all cylinders, all those metaphors and all that crap. But seriously, I mean, if y'all watch the game, Minnesota and Nebraska.
Yeah,
they've got some players, but they have some holes too. So it'll be interesting to see how they develop. I think the Cajuns have a lot of talent, and I think we can compete.
That's true. That's true. So that's going to do it for Around the Belt. Guys, again, first episode to kick off season 6. We went a little over 2 hours tonight, but we wanted to thank everybody for joining. And look, we'll be here every week. I know we had a lot of questions being asked. Where are y'all and what's going on? What are y'all doing? We decided to follow the Northeast school schedule, right? Where, down here we go back to school in early August. Nah, we took a little bit of an extra summer break and decided to come back after Labor Day. So we apologize for the delay, but we're back now. So you got to deal with us for the next 10 months. Josh, we love you, man. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. We know that you'll be behind the scenes, but in the meantime, this will probably be your last episode for a while, unless you need to fill in every once in a while in case Nick or I get sick or have other obligations. But it's been fun having you on the air with us. Nick and I will be steering this ship from here on out, and we will be back hopefully Saturday, depending on what's going on with our schedules, hopefully for a post game. So hopefully
a happy post
a
game.
happy post game, so people won't be calling in, screaming and yelling and pulling their hair out going, what
Well,
happened?
Kyle, shout out to Kyle watching us tonight. Kyle is going to yell regardless. So I look forward to a call from Kyle if you're still on, Kyle.
Yes, but hopefully it's a call that where he's still happy. He's yelling while he's happy because we're 2-0. So again, we got volleyball coming up. We got soccer coming up on Saturday. The Cajuns go to Norfolk, Virginia to take on the Monarchs of ODU. Kickoffs at 5:00. ESPN Plus 103.3 the GOAT 1420. Hey, as always, guys, I'm Jerry. That's Nick. That's Josh. And we are the Ragin' Review Podcast. Have a good night, everybody. And as always, go Cajuns.
Raise those hands up. You know that you're greater than them. Now raise one hand up. You know you got a hater.